Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. Now, here's your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening in on this episode of the FUMS Now podcast show. If you haven't done so yet, I'd like to ask you to please go to Apple or iTunes. I don't even know what they call it anymore. They've changed it recently. I'll just call it iTunes. That's what I know it as. Anyway, go there to this show and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're there, if you'd please leave your honest review of the show, I'd really appreciate it. It helps so much in getting the word out. So thanks for doing that. On today's show, I visit with Michelle Nelson, an MS warrior from Minnesota that was previously in a wheelchair thanks to her MS, but through chiropractic care and supplementation is now back to her previous level of ability and living large. So let's meet Michelle. So, hey, Michelle Nelson, thanks so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is fun.
This is fun. Just kind of a little background for everybody. It's so strange how we met. And we actually haven't met in person, only online. But
right.
This is going to get so convoluted. My niece's daughter is in your daughter's dance class. Oh, that wasn't as convoluted as I thought it was going to be.
That wasn't as bad.
No.
Right.
So, yeah. And I guess my niece had shared with your daughter my website, and I happened to get to meet your daughter a couple weeks ago when I was up visiting in Minnesota and got your number. And so that's how this all came to be.
Yep.
And she was telling me your really cool MS story, if such a thing exists. I mean, I hate that you have MS, but you know, for all the MS stories that I hear, yours is pretty darn cool, frankly.
It is a lot of reasons. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
I've had quite a few people say, you should go on Montel. Oh, Montel would love your story.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, let's hope he's going to hear it. Hello,
right?
Montel.
Hello, Montel.
Let me introduce you to Michelle. Michelle Montel, Montel Michelle.
There you go.
So, yeah, you were telling me this story on, I think you kind of woke up with your first symptom. Is that right?
I did. Well, the first known symptom, I think most people realize that they had symptoms prior to their first big one. But yeah, I woke up one morning and I was completely blind in my left eye. It was just all black.
Oh my God, how scary.
It was weird at first. This is like the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
Right.
And so to be quite honest, I just went and splashed my face with some water and went back to sleep, hoping it would go away, you know. And of course it didn't. I woke up and called the doctor and got in the emergency room and everything, and spent like hours at the emergency room because they thought I was faking it.
Oh my, you're kidding me.
Well, we were in a small town in Minnesota, so because it was Memorial Day weekend. And so we were up at the cabin. So it was a small emergency room. But then they brought me down to an ophthalmologist who happened to be working on Memorial Day weekend. And he looked at my optic nerve and he set me up with an MRI that following Tuesday.
So thank God that guy was in, huh?
Right, absolutely. And he gave me an idea. He said, I'm pretty sure you have MS because this is optic neuritis, but you need, the MRI and of course, lumbar puncture and everything like that.
Fun stuff, that lumbar puncture.
Right.
Let me ask you about your optic neuritis, because I think there's some confusion out there. I've gotten a couple questions on this before. Did you have pain with that, or did you just lose your sight?
Just lost my sight.
Okay.
No pain, no aching. My orbital bone, they kept asking, are you sure your eye doesn't hurt? No, nothing hurt.
Just can't see anything. It's just black.
Yep.
Weird. All right. Yep. So he sent you for an MRI to start on the odyssey, that is getting a diagnosis. Although I must say, yours is the fastest diagnosis story I've ever heard.
I know.
It's pretty awesome. So take us through that.
Well, I went in for an MRI on Tuesday, had my lumbar puncture and a visual evoked response all within that first week. And I got my diagnosis by the end of the week.
That's incredible. And that's the way it should work, but doesn't very often.
You would think so. Well, lucky or unlucky, I had positive results on every test.
Right. Well, there's that too, yeah. Because some people get the MRI and they'll go, well, I'm really not seeing any lesions or nothing out of the ordinary and that sort of thing.
Or there's one lesion, so it can't be considered multiple sclerosis.
Right.
And then you're sitting waiting around for your immune system to
attack you.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Right?
So, okay, you get this diagnosis. Holy cow, I've got MS. Now what? Yes. Had you gotten at this point to a neurologist? Is that who was directing this? Okay.
Yes. And so, of course, then I got on the prednisone, the 3-day shot of it.
Gotcha.
And my eye started coming back with flashes, and so bad that I had to wear a badge over my eye because it was, and which doesn't make much sense because it's not my eyesight, it's my nerve.
Right.
Covering the eye really does it. It's I know, very strange. But throughout the first probably 8 months, my eye kept going back and forth. I would gain some vision, then I would lose it. Then I gained color vision, then I would lose it. And so throughout the 6 to 8 months, I was also on, here's a 3-day shot of prednisone IV, here's a 5-day shot, here's 10 days of pills. Gracious. So I was on prednisone pretty much throughout that, trying to get my vision back.
Yeah. Wow, that's frustrating and scary.
It is. And, not knowing, is this going to happen to my other eye?
Right.
And doing all this research where, I have to say I got lost in the internet blog.
Oh, yes.
That's all I did. That's all I thought about. Right. That's all. It became my life. And I think that was a detriment to my health.
No question. Really. Well, wasn't this, did you tell me this was 2001? Or 2000? No, 99, right? When you woke up. Yep. Good thing I took notes. Look between the two of our MS heads, we can come up with this. Okay. So especially back then, and honestly, that's one of the reasons, that's the main reason I started FUMSnow.com website, because everything was so horrible online. It just scared the heck out of me. And in fact, I got a real quick diagnosis too, like within a month or so. But during that time while I was waiting, that was it. My face was in that screen.
Oh, yeah.
Everything I saw was horrific and super scary and, not good for your health. Just like you said, it was not good for your health. So I was hoping that in starting FUMS and giving some real life information and maybe a little humor, because I think laughing is really good for you, that would help some people. So I hope it has. Anyway, sorry, I digress. That's what I do. So, okay, you're taking this prednisone and whatnot, trying to get your eyesight back. Had they put you on any of the injections? Yeah, because there weren't any shots.
Oh, yes.
I mean, pills at that time. Yes. So what would you start with? Do you remember?
I started with Copaxone.
Okay.
And of course, they did prescribe me Copaxone. I was on the prednisone. First med before anything, they put me on antidepressants. Of course, because you have to add meds if you have MS.
Right.
And throughout that 8 months, it just seemed everything went down. So they put me on baclofen. My legs were tired, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with the stress.
Sure.
So yes, I was on Copaxone, the prednisone, the antidepressant, and baclofen.
Gracious. And how did that Copaxone work for you?
I didn't. I didn't see any physical, it's not a fix. I didn't
Right.
see any physical good effects from it. I just saw the daily reminder that I have MS and that I have to give myself a shot.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Good times.
And then it's probably 2 years into it, I started losing my hair really badly, and I kept going downhill. By 2001, I was on disability, and the fatigue was so bad, so it wasn't doing me any good. So we switched to beta-seron because I had. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how did that treat you? Because that's the one that I was on for 5 years, and I'm always interested. Honestly, I've not talked to that many people who were on beta-seron, interestingly enough, but how did that treat you?
Not too bad, but I quit it within that year. That was when I first started getting off of medications.
Oh.
I had a injection site reaction in my stomach, and it started to necrose.
Oh,
so it started, getting all black and everything. So I went in, and they had to do 2 stitches on the inside and like 4 stitches on the outside because they had to cut all that stuff out.
Oh, nice. So just to
Right.
clarify, so when it, as you said, it necrosed, or you had necrosis, that was the skin actually dies.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
And
Okay.
it turned black and gross. I
Pretty.
mean, there's really no question about what
Right.
is done. And yeah, real gorgeous.
Yeah.
So after that, I was done. I was done with the shots.
Oh, I bet.
No more.
Yeah. Done.
Yep, done. And so within that time, I had met my chiropractor, who introduced me to more holistic approaches to health.
Mm-hmm.
That was really
will you tell the story, please, about your garage sale? I think that's so cool.
I had been doing in-home daycare, and my daughter was going into first grade, and I was going on disability because I couldn't stay awake throughout the day.
Yeah.
So I was having a garage sale, selling all my daycare stuff. And this lady came up, and I was in the chair with just looking miserable, I'm sure, with my cane right there and everything. And she had come in and left and came back, and she said, you have got to come into my house today. I've got to see you today. And so she introduced herself. She said, I'm a chiropractor. I live a block and a half away from you. And she said, I think I can help you. And we hadn't talked. She hadn't touched me.
Right.
It was just, she's
Michelle,
a very...
you must have looked pretty bad.
I did.
Take one eye full of you and have to come back and say, oh, I think I can help you.
Right. You need help. Awesome. Yeah. And so that, excuse me, that day I went in, and she felt my feet. I laid down. She felt my feet, and she said, well, this foot is dead.
What the heck?
And that I hadn't told her anything. And I said, well, I do have to tell you that that's my numb foot, because I have a completely numb foot leg up to my knee or something. And I said, well, that's my numb foot. And she said, well, that's why, because you have no energy. It's something's blocked.
Wow.
Have a lot of blockages when there's no energy coming to your body, right? So she worked on me. She did cranial sacral work. As this relationship grew, we became very close friends, and she introduced me to a prayer healer, and I spent time with him. She introduced me to energy work, and a couple other friends that just brought in the soul part of it, the mind and soul part of it.
And were you off of everything at this point? So I know that you got rid of the shots, but were you off of everything at that point, too?
Within that year, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I just got off everything. I stopped seeing my neurologist, which is something I wouldn't really suggest to anyone to do because it probably was a very dangerous thing for me to do to get off all 10 of my meds at the same time. But right. It
And
wasn't
ditch the doc. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But my trust was in this journey that I was starting.
And it paid off rather nicely, didn't it?
It did.
So, yeah. So, what happened then?
Well, my goodness, it just every day I kept feeling better and better, and I was taking these glyconutrient supplements as well. So not only was I getting my mind and soul healed, I was also healing my body through good nutrition and these supplements and just everything that I could get my hands on to heal my body.
Right. And so what were these supplements you're talking about? What did you call them? Glyconutrients? Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
I'm unfamiliar. Yep. Can you enlighten me?
Oh, it's made of aloe, this product is. And what it does is it works on the cellular level. And it provides the sugar cells that we're not getting in our food because we're not eating the ripe fruit, and we're just not eating well as an American society.
I was going to say, I get plenty of sugar, so I'm not sure what you're talking about, lady, but okay.
No,
this is different.
The good kind of sugar.
Okay.
Because our cells are covered with sugar molecules. Okay. And it's almost like a spider, and these little sugar molecules make little legs, and that's how our cells communicate with each other. Okay. And it's very interesting science. Yeah. And this is why I got into it, because there's an actual science to it.
Science is good.
It all comes down to science, doesn't it?
It does. Or it should.
Right.
Let's go there.
Anyway, so what these glyconutrients provide is those sugar molecules that help our cells communicate with each other. And so that's what it is. That's what a glyconutrient is.
Got it. Okay. And so this was your chiropractor had suggested this to you, correct?
Well, she had heard about it, and she was curious about it because it dealt with science, and she's a scientist. And so we went together to this presentation. We hadn't heard anything about it, and I tell you, we were both so excited when we left there because we thought this might help.
Yeah, right. Give it a shot. Why not, right?
Right, exactly.
And so did you feel better pretty quickly after starting them?
I think it probably gave me about a month.
Okay. About
a month. But I tell you, Kathy, you know how you say I'm going to take this, and then you take it for 2 weeks and you forget.
Right.
And so there's a half bottle of your stuff sitting right there, and then say I'm going to take it again, and then you leave it. I never ever forgot to take these. Yeah, and I took them 3 times a day. So something must have
resonated with you. Your body was like, "Give me more of that."
Absolutely.
So you actually, I know you had told me, you at one point were in a wheelchair, and you've used a cane and you've used a scooter in the past, correct?
Got my daughter's 4th birthday at the zoo, had to use a scooter. If I went anywhere where there was walking, I would be using a wheelchair, use the cane around my home. And, couldn't figure out how to do laundry going up and down the steps because I couldn't. So we put 2 handles on each side of on the stairs so I could pull myself up because my legs just didn't work.
Yeah. Gracious.
Yeah.
So then fast forward beyond that, you have this chiropractic help and homeopathic help, I should say, as well, because you also talked about you had you did energy work and you had a prayer healer and
yoga.
I'm such a big I love yoga. I really have to give a shout out to some yoga because it's so great for stretching and balance work. So I get away from it. I don't do it for a week or so, and then I go back. It's exceedingly obvious I haven't been there for a time.
Right.
And I need
well,
to go
and
more
it's
often.
not only the physical part of yoga, but the mindfulness and
Right.
the body awareness. Because I
Yes.
think if you're
Good
sick,
point.
you need to know your body and what it's
Truth.
telling. Yeah.
Yes. I totally agree with all of that. Don't always adhere to that, but I totally agree with it.
Well,
When I do, I feel much better. So we'll just go with that.
you do, and you do constantly have to put yourself, okay, let's
Right.
let's take a step back here.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Because when I feel good, it's almost like I forget what it's like to feel bad, which is so dumb. I should really
Yes.
journal. This is like, I should be laying on a sofa now because this is like a psychotherapy session for me. I need to be journaling so I remember these things so I do better.
Yes. Well, and one thing I did do throughout this whole thing too is I had a gratitude journal. That was when
Cool.
Oprah's big gratitude thing was,
Right.
Yeah. And I wrote down 3 things every day that I was grateful for. And I have to tell you, they were tiny when I was really sick.
I bet.
Tiny little things.
Yeah.
And then I would also put my pain scale every day where
Smart.
I was with my pain level.
Yeah.
And
So you've been able to really track the difference too then.
right.
That's fantastic. So, okay, it's a month in on these supplements, and you're
Yes.
working with the chiropractor and such.
Yep.
And so, what's the first real difference you start seeing?
The lack of fatigue.
Oh, nice. That is pretty much across the board. Every MSer I know has some level of fatigue pretty much constantly. It's just you learn how to deal with it, but some days are worse than others. So that's huge.
Being able to stay awake
Right.
for more than 4 hours was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
And
fantastic.
the ability to just do anything and everything that I wanted to do, and your motivation increases, and you're happier,
Yeah.
and your life just seems to fall together
Yeah.
instead of falling apart.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so quotable. I think I'm going to put that's going on my page.
Okay. There we go.
Perfect. That was awesome. And so how long ago was that you started all of this?
I started that process in 2001.
Okay. And
So,
within about a month, you started seeing real change.
yeah, and was off disability in 2003, the beginning of 2003, I believe.
Excellent. And how are you doing now?
I'm doing great. I'm actually a massage therapist.
Oh,
Yes.
great. Boy, had I known that last time I was in Minnesota, I would have, I mean, I'd
Right?
love to meet you anyway, but
Right. Yeah. Well, it kind of is I tried to find something that I could do to help people.
nice. So it's a
And,
calling for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And prior to that, I worked in a home for women with MS who were physically disabled. So I worked in an adult foster home for women.
Wow.
And that was eye-opening,
I
and
bet.
yeah,
Disheartening.
yeah, disheartening, scary, and I told my chiropractor where I was working, and she looked at me, she said, I don't think it's a good idea. She said, you have to
Get
remember
the hell
that
out of
that's
there.
not
Right.
right.
That's kind of you, big-hearted of you, but yeah, right.
Right.
And so now you're doing very well. And do you continue with the chiropractic care, or and the supplementation, or what are you up to these days? Okay, good.
I don't continue the chiropractor as much as I should. She yells at me when it's been 6 months. I come in and she's, Michelle.
Right. Haven't seen you.
Right. But I do the supplements when I start to feel a little bit more fatigued. You can kind of feel that's creeping up on you. I go, okay,
Right.
I got it. get up on that. Nutrition, I stay away from most processed foods, no chemicals, no petroleum. I take, no petroleum products on my body. So I really watch what's going into my body.
Very good.
So, and of course the stress, I stay away from stress to the point of being rude.
Well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but now I am since you did, because I think that's so huge that people really need to, well, as you say, be rude if you need to, because it's really not rude. I mean, self-care is so important. And we've, particularly in the U.S., I think, and particularly as women, been sort of socialized to, I don't know, put ourselves last. And it's really foolish, particularly if you have MS. You really need to kind of take better care of yourself. And that's really not selfish. It's self-care. Right. And you can't be there for anybody else if you are hurting. So.
Oh, absolutely. You are your own caregiver. And if you're not doing a good job at that, then what kind of caregiver can you be to anybody else?
Right. And you did share with me, and I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this, that one of the biggest stressors in your life was an unhappy marriage. And when that ended, your stress really decreased, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I share that with everyone to just say, really take a look at your life and how you've structured it in every aspect, work, home, friends. Sometimes you need to do a little pruning in your life. I'm not suggesting that everybody get divorced, but I just think it's really important for everyone, whether you have MS or not, and particularly if you do have MS, just kind of take a gander at what your life is looking like and who you're surrounding yourself with. And if the stress levels are high or higher because of someone, maybe you need to reconsider that relationship. Would that be fair to say, Michelle?
Absolutely.
That helped you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. I have a few, I talk about my bubble and who's invited into my bubble. And,
nice.
Right?
Yeah, I like it.
Well, and that's fine. Or circling the wagons when things get tough.
Right.
And you have to be mindful of who you're inviting into your life.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's really Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I've gotten remarried since, and he definitely does not add stress to my life and understands my need for calmness. So
Good. That's huge. That's huge.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Well, this has been so interesting. I thank you so much. I ask everyone that comes on the show to share a favorite resource that they found helpful for their MS. A piece of equipment, an app, some software, something like that. Some sort of resource that anybody could help. I think I know what yours is going to be, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you.
Well, of course, chiropractic and learning about nutrition and what you're putting into your body. But one thing that really helped, I did research on energy saving tips.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Well, like making your bed one side at a time,
Nice.
So you're not constantly going back and forth doing that.
Right.
Just simple energy saving. When you're emptying the dishwasher, empty it all out at once instead of going back and forth and going, put them up on the counter.
Yeah. I like that. Well, that's actually why I had children. I have them do that. That was one bonus. I'll say that. That's not really why I had them, but it's a nice bonus now that they're teenagers.
That would be a nice bonus. Yeah. Yep. But
one other thing that I would think that you would want to include, of course, is that supplementation. And, I don't think that I asked you the name of it. I failed. So if you wouldn't mind sharing.
It's Mannatech is the company that makes it. It's Mannatech.
Okay. I will put, that's the company. Do you know the name of the actual product?
Yep. Ambertose. It's AMBROTOSE.
Okay. And I am going to put a link in the show notes to that. So anybody that's interested can click the link and learn more about what has helped Michelle so much. So that's great. Any other resource that you want to share?
I really I went through the MS Society quite often. I actually was a support group leader for about a year through the MS Society.
I could see that.
And they have a lot of resources, whether it be, there's $1,500 for each member of the society that they can use, like if they need a cooling vest or if they need some kind of apparatus to help them move around. The MS Society does have that money available for members.
Wow.
Yes.
I've never heard that before.
Yes.
That's fantastic to know.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, when I was in the adult foster home, there was a lady that needed a new bed, and she was bedridden and needed a new air bed, and the MS Society paid for half of it.
That's really good information.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
There's definitely somebody to hook up with.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, I will put a link in the show notes to them as well, so you can always get in touch with them. So I cannot thank you enough, Miss Michelle. This has been so interesting, and thank you so much for sharing your story with all of us and all your tips and tricks. And,
well, thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to actually meeting you in person next time I get up to Minnesota.
Sounds good.
So here in the FUMS Nation, we speak to this stupid disease as it deserves to be spoken to. Please, if you would lead us in our salute to MS with middle finger extended on 3. Are you ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
FUMS.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. If you found value in this podcast, I invite you to go into iTunes, search for FUMS Now, and leave me a 5-star review. Not only does that motivate me to create more free content, it also helps others just like you to find this valuable resource. Be sure to sign up for our free newsletter for more tips and tricks for living your best life with MS at FUMSnow.com. And if you have suggestions of future topics or guests for the show, please email me directly at Kathy, Kathy, at FUMSnow.com. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time, remember to speak to this stupid disease like it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.